3, 2.
Here we go!
Cindy, you excited that we are about to start episode 2 of Zoned Out?
I can't wait. And we're right here at the entrance of Armstrong Park. It looks quite impressive, doesn't it?
It does. Every time we ever pass by as a kid, driving up Rampart, seeing the arch, it's always so inviting in a way, even with the giant iron gates.
And we're going to walk over to Congo Square and see where jazz started. But yet, where we are, live music is illegal.
What do you mean where we are live?
We're walking through Armstrong Park, which is right on Rampart Street.
Right outside the French.
Right outside of the French Quarter.
In Tremé.
In Tremé. And this is such a historical place because this is where jazz started in Congo Square.
Cindy, fast forward into today, we've been seeing a lot of surveys that the city has done. I got to give credit to the city for some attempts at trying to be better stewards for the cultural economy. And when we talk about cultural economy, in this case, we're talking about musicians, performers, people that rely on places to be able to go.
Correct.
In order to perform, to attract people.
Smaller venues where live musicians can go and work it out. This is how jazz started. It was free flowing. You sit in. It's by feeling the music. And also live performance is so much different than studio performance. You interact with people. People always go where music is.
You saw that the results of that survey. Was it fair to say that one of the things that the musicians were asking for is more locations for them to be able to perform?
Absolutely.
Do you think that the city has enough locations for the rich culture of musical performance?
Absolutely not. What we're seeing now is Frenchmen Street, another, quote, live music place, is being overrun. And the reason it's being overrun is because there's not enough places to spread out the live music offerings in New Orleans. Here we are at Congo Square. Congo Square was the zone where the slaves were allowed to dance on Sunday afternoon. And it's right, the French Quarter is one way and Tremé is the other way. And this is right in the center. And this, through their rhythms, through the sounds of New Orleans, through their collaboration with others, jazz came out of Congo Square and then permeated on into Storyville, which is behind us.
Cindy, does that seem crazy that a city that prides itself on its cultural economy, its history of music, is somehow devoid of music at one of the birthplaces of music in the city?
I think it is an absolute travesty, and I think we are not respecting history. We're not respecting the ancestors that came before us that put jazz on the map. And New Orleans prides itself on being a jazz place, a music mecca. That's not true.
So it just seems absurd and kind of obscene that we, over the last 200, 300 years, have essentially made music this outlawed experience.
Right. We have zoned the music that New Orleans was founded on. We've zoned it out.
And would it kind of be a little ironic that, as I understand it, Congo Square was kind of created as this means of kind of control by the folks that were running the city, the power in the city, to try and make sure that they could keep the tabs on
the performers.
And now we've again evolved over the last 200 to 300 years to where it's now just kind of outright illegal.
That is correct.
This is a city, I know that sometimes people get a little nervous talking about race. We are a city with an extremely rich history that would not exist, that would not be here if it was not for African American, Black, Brown
Amen.
musicians and everything the culture brings.
Amen. If we did not have the African diaspora or the Caribbean diaspora here in New Orleans, we would not have the culture that we have now. It is the undercurrent of it all.
As I understood it from that musical survey, the musician survey,
Yep.
that a good chunk of musicians, I think it's the majority, are Black and Brown.
That is correct.
And so when we find that there's so many areas of the city that, again, keep outlawing music, it's just obvious to paint the picture and connect that we're continuing to keep the same folks down.
Amen.
We're denying opportunities for people to apply their craft, perform, have places for people to come. I mean, we're here walking around. Yeah, it's 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, but it's nice, beautiful weather, and we have just this tiny little amount of people coming in and around this place because there's just no programming.
There's nothing else around here to bring them here.
And, you know, where we're going to go with this is the fact that right across the street, which is North Rampart, we're seeing blight, we're seeing boarded up facades.
We're seeing corners with 3 security cameras, none of which work because the owner is waiting for a permit from the city to put up a security camera.
I'm a permit guy, so I'm going to keep my opinion quiet for a second. From the few times I'll keep it, I'll let you go. Do you think, as somebody who's not involved in permits, that over a year to get a permit for security cameras is a bit too long?
It's ridiculous. Again, I go back to my state of how does that help anybody? I am a citizen. I look at these things, and it's just as a citizen here, there's so many improvements that just glare me in the face every day. So I've decided to talk about them.
Now, you have a lot of experience in some other cities, especially some much larger cities. And when you see parks that are successful and places that are successful, it generally means you have to have people, right?
Correct.
You can't just build a park, put a gate around it. You can't just have pretty buildings. You have to have people actually interacting with those spaces.
That is correct. And having a fence all the way around the park with the door open only during daylight hours is not very inviting.
But would it be fair to say that, you know, in order to properly program the space, you have to have
things going on.
You have to have things around it. And, you know, as we're about to see, there's just not a lot of people. There's not a lot of foot traffic. There's not a lot of business. There's not a lot of living.
Rampart Street is mostly blighted.
Inactive at best.
Correct.
Completely blighted and trashed in some ways.
Correct.
And this is not us trying to be negative on the very important businesses and people that try to live every day on Rampart and around Rampart. But certainly there's a lot of need for improvement. And, you know, again, based on the history of music and the rich culture right here in this spot, it just seems like an obvious choice to start coming up with some common sense relaxation of restrictions on music for a place that is the birthplace of all of us.
I agree. So, Zach, how can we help in getting live music back to Rampart Street and back to where it all started?
Well, I think we're gonna finish up a couple of interviews with some people, making sure that it's not just you and me coming up with this fantasy idea, making sure that people on Rampart seem to have an opinion and a preference, and essentially see if they agree with our hypothesis.
We'll go interview them and talk to them about their business.
We'll interview a couple people that are business owners. We're gonna, over the course of the rest of the series, we're gonna be talking to musicians, people that support musicians, stakeholders, making sure, because I'm not a musician.
Realtors, developers,
owners, business residents, everybody involved, to see if they think the status quo of blight and limited activity is something they want to see continue, or they want to see improvement.
And if they want to see the status quo of the biggest thing that New Orleans exports to the world is jazz, but yet we're strangled here by zoning in promoting and helping our own jazz live on. New Orleans should be layered with music everywhere. You open a door, there's music. But we're doing just the reverse to shut the door on live music.
Do you find it interesting that the only thing you can hear is cars?
That's the sound.
There's not even piped-in music?
There's no piped-in music. There is no even background music. There's no Muzak music. That is the sound of Blight, is nothing but cars.
The sound of Blight. It's really discouraging.
The sound of Blight, right off Congo Square, where it was such a happy, joyous place.
And do you think if Rampart was bustling with shops and people, that this park would be...
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think you're right, Cindy. I think you're really right.
3, 2, 1.